And based on that, it wouldn't be a discussion around Ripple if you didn't ask this question. Are you a competitor to Swift in this case? Yeah.
Yeah, that's an interesting question. I joined Ripple in 2015, so this is in Ripple years, that's quite some time. And I think when I joined, we were more focused on banks and comparing to what can Swift do versus what Ripple can do. There is a long history between the organizations, and indeed, I remember I think it was in 2017 at Sibos in Geneva, which is Swift's conference, and Ripple was attending. And in the middle of the conference, FinExtra published an article about Ripple being the unwanted guest who steals Swift's girlfriend at the party. And that was a very awkward situation. So there's certainly been a lot in terms of media and mindshare. And I like to think that Ripple's been part of a broader fintech effort that has driven innovation from Swift. If you look at GPI, it's really the first fundamental innovation we've seen in Swift in decades, literally. And I think that we've been sort of part of that. But in reality, we think that Swift is built on an antiquated architecture that has been built for very large corporates and has been built for very large correspondents servicing those corporates. It's not built for the future customers of cross-border transactions. And these are individuals. These are small businesses. These are small businesses paying thousands of dollars, maybe even hundreds of dollars to many different suppliers across many different countries, not really large corporates paying $10 million to two suppliers. So when I meet with many financial institutions, both banks and non-banks, our conversations are not based on how they can do a transaction on Ripple better than they currently do it on Swift. I talk to them about how can they do services that they cannot efficiently deliver to their customers today using their existing infrastructure, predominantly Swift. How can they build a high performance business around these services that scales and maintains agility with the changing customer needs and their changing business strategies, and how can they take advantage of opportunities and challenges in that space? So overall, I think in terms of PR, in terms of different publications and discussions, particularly at the bank level, absolutely, there's some competition with Swift. In terms of mindshare, there's some competition with Swift. But in terms of actual implementation and what we're seeing in the market, we don't really see Swift as a competitor in that space.
Because that's fantastic. And also, so you're seeing a speed aspect to your business and a cost reduction for your clients. And so are you looking at the moment, is it more weighted towards business customers or B2B, or is it B2C, or is it just a 50-50 split?
So we work, our customers are licensed financial institutions. So we don't go direct to customer. We don't service merchants, etc., which obviously is a business that needs extreme scale. We work with licensed financial institutions, and we work with them as to how they can service their customers. And RippleNet in particular is focused on high performance businesses built on low value, high velocity payments. And we see predominantly three different use cases in particular on the network around that. One is obviously consumer to consumer payments, the majority being OFW remittance transactions, so foreign worker remittance transactions. We work with a lot of banks in India, for instance, which receives billions of dollars a year, majority from Middle East. We work across these corridors. We also work across niche, more lower volume corridors that traditionally have been very expensive and inefficient in that space. It definitely forms probably the majority, the majority of services that we see on the network. There are other types of obviously consumer to consumer payments we see as well, student payments, cross-border bill payments and other aspects. Secondly, we do see a lot of B2B payments on the network. These are predominantly small to medium-sized enterprises paying suppliers in different markets. This is a huge space, and you can see that this is very competitive in the market. If you look at the market in this space, banks lost the market in consumer to consumer payments long ago. If you look at the market in B2B payments, this is where fintech is attacking. If you look at TransferWise's ads these days, it's about the open your business account on TransferWise. We can do your payments overseas. So the small to medium-sized enterprise market is growing massively in every single market that I've been in, which, trust me, is plenty. And the small to medium-sized enterprise of today is obviously the corporate of tomorrow. So it's a very important space for banks and for payment companies. And we have a lot of services and interest in that space. The third one that is, of course, growing and huge as well is platform disbursements. So how does Uber pay their drivers in India? Everything's routed back through Netherlands. It's a very complicated space. And I've spoken to the head of payments in Uber, actually, and he describes their company as more of a payments company than a taxi service. They have hundreds of APIs into different payment services to service this. So if we can bring in consistency and one API that can fulfill that need, then that's a huge use case as well. It would be the smaller of those three use cases, but we're seeing a lot of growth and a lot of interest there. And we're looking to provide, bring together a network that can service all three of those areas.